So it is Sunday. I've come outside, Shakara, to what I thought was a quiet place. Turns out it's nowhere near as quiet as it used to be. Hopefully it's not too noisy and distracting. Also, photography-wise, I think I'm in a very bad spot. The sun's actually behind me and it's supposed to be that way in front of me, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. Let's talk emotions. This comes off of the back of the last video that I put up about confidence and just how I kind of got a little bit rocked with a little bit of a situation or something going on. And one thing I noticed at this time is there's this really horrible feeling of feeling emotionally, I suppose it's emotionally immature. And what I mean by that is going through the situation and experiencing feelings and emotions. It's a case of actually feeling that you don't know how to process the emotion. You have this overwhelming feeling inside you that's, you know, it's ruining your confidence, it's making you panic, it's messing with your head in so many ways. And I find myself in these situations, I almost become two different people. It's like the person that is going through the emotion and the panic and everything else. And the other side of that is almost like an external view of myself that's watching me go through this stuff and trying to reason with myself, sort of say, you know, you've got to settle down, you've got to calm down, breathe a little bit, you know, kind of a little bit more grounded, if you like. And it's such a strange experience of the two things, because it feels like one is the right thing to do and one is the here and now, you know, emotional experience of everything. One of the hardest things that happens at that time is the overwhelming feeling that I'm not sure how or if I'm managing the emotions correctly. 9 times out of 10 it feels that I am not. And it makes me feel like a little bit of a diva. Now, all of this is happening in my head. Like, I mean, there is some outward show of things, especially if I'm panicking or, you know, the anxiety's there or something. But I try to keep it all in. It's how I've been brought up. You know, we're men. Emotions stay inwards. This all happens internally. But it's just such a bizarre feeling that we have. It's just one of those that I don't really know how to... I don't know how to get it across. I don't know how to word it, because it just, it feels like such two different things. It feels like there's a, you know what? This is kind of not working. I'm just gonna go jump in the car a minute and see what happens. Anyway, there's this overwhelming feeling that I'm not processing emotions correctly. And like I say, I get torn between having the emotional experience and also this other part of me that is questioning how I'm processing it, because it doesn't feel normal, I suppose, is the best way, because it's, the emotions are overwhelming, and sometimes I can't explain it other than I feel that I just don't understand it. I feel that what I'm experiencing isn't the natural way to experience emotions. It feels very much that they're too big. You know, sometimes it's small things that seem to produce such huge emotions. And I just feel that I'm almost emotionally inept in processing it. I don't know where this comes from. There's a little bit of me that's... I've sort of grown up ignoring my gut feeling. I went with it for a while, and then things happened and I just decided I wasn't going to listen to my gut feeling, despite the fact I used to have a really, really good, you know, I used to have a really good gut. It never let me down, but it got to a point sort of in my early 20s where I stopped listening to it, because I feel that that's when all my sort of learnings that you get as a kid, all your programming basically, became the overriding factor of how I went through life. And as a result of that, you know, I found myself hanging around situations that I didn't feel that I wanted to be in, but I stuck there because it felt like it was supposed to be the right thing to do for other people. Because let's be honest, I'm a massive people pleaser, and that's a big part of half my battles, big part of half my issues. But with the emotions, I turned to the counsellor and was like, this is how things have been recently. This is how it feels. It feels like I just don't have the sort of emotional maturity to navigate all this situation. And we got talking about stuff, and he was sort of asking, from various situations, like, what do you need from, say, external people? Like, what are you looking for? And one situation is something that's happened recently where somebody says that they want to see more of you, or they want to talk to you, this, that, and everything else, but then they ghost you. Now, for me, the internal me is sort of triggered by the fact that their words and their actions are two different things. Like, that really, really almost angered me, but it really made me quite annoyed, basically, because I think that the simplest thing that we can do for and to each other is just be honest, say what we mean what we say, sort of thing. If you don't want to see somebody, don't tell them that you want to see more of them. It's really strange how somebody's words can give you false hope and string you along, and then when their actions don't match their words, depending on your draw to that person, it can really suck. So anyway, I was talking to the counsellor about stuff, and I was like, I'm in that situation now where I would just quite like a response from somebody, if we're out in this big old world. And I said to him, my bar of expectation is so low. It's almost like I would walk past somebody in the street, say hello, and now my bar is a case of, are they going to acknowledge me? Are they going to, like, tip their hat kind of thing? Are they going to do anything? Like, because of how people have kind of not been civil, or, basic human stuff, my expectation from individuals has just become so small, it's near enough non-existent. And I said, I feel like a massive diva, that maybe I'm expecting too much. And he turned around and said, have you listened to the language that you use when you talk? He said, you're sitting there saying that you feel like a diva because you would have the expectation that somebody has told you that they want to see more of you and they enjoy speaking with you. And when you reach out to them, you would like a response. And you're not getting that response. As a result of that, it's like I say, I don't know, expectation of people is becoming so small. It's just, it's crazy. But in terms of the emotional sort of triggers, the emotional response, it's so difficult to feel that I don't have the ability to deal with situations that on one hand don't feel like they should be anything. They just don't feel like it's, literally they don't feel like it's anything. But on the other hand, whatever's going on internally is throwing me for six, and it's making me feel like my emotions are just fucking wild, man. They're just so almost out of control, I suppose, is the easiest way to put it. And as you get talking, you obviously start to understand that all of these response systems that we have, all of this stuff that we go through, how we deal, how we process, whatever else, it all starts its life through our childhood and our upbringing. The ways that we experience things, the ways that people are with us, especially our parents or our main caregivers, it all makes a difference to where we end up as an adult. Now, there are people who I think are bloody lucky, to be honest, that they don't seem to be wired in the same way. They can experience so much crap, but it doesn't seem to faze them. But again, that is basically because of what they've experienced growing up, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. It's wired their brain in a way that makes them kind of nonchalant about events that to others might absolutely ruin them. So then it leaves me kind of sat there trying to work out what the blinking heck's going on. the whole experience of going to counselling and discussing things is making me feel more and more and more that I'm almost two different people. Like, I don't know if I have a split personality, or I don't know if it's just coping mechanisms or what. But it feels very much that I'm almost two individuals running a parallel life. And some days person A runs the controls and some days person B runs the controls. And it feels that somewhere along the line, that second person or second whatever version of me, like, manifested and it spawned itself in. Because I look at how things were when I was a kid and, you know, a younger adult or whatever, and I just seem to have a little bit more about me than what I do now. And it's trying to understand people, I think, in all fairness, it's really kind of broke me. It's almost like my understanding of the world from what I was brought up to expect it to be has become very different to what I've experienced. And unfortunately, a lot of that is down to people. That's just, I think that's literally a matter of life, let's be honest, because people will always be not what you expected them to be. But one thing we always talk about is a set of rules. You're brought up to have a set of rules. They're the rules that you live by when you're a child. They're the rules that your parents teach you about life and the world and everything else. And they're not necessarily they're not rules like laws or rules or stuff, but it's like, for me, it was the whole, you should be seen and not heard as a kid. That was a rule. Like, you don't speak unless you're spoken to. That was a rule. You don't talk over people. Those kind of things. But when you get to the real world, all of that goes out the window. It just completely goes out the window. Now, I don't know if it's because I am probably a little bit neurodivergent or whatever, but it really gives me issues, shall we say, when the rules that I have been brought up with don't seem to be matched by the world around me. It leaves me very lost, I suppose, frustrated, and in some cases, like, really emotionally confused, worn out, tired, everything. And like I say, we speak about rules and stuff with the counsellor, and he's trying to help me understand that the rule book isn't a fixed thing. It's almost like it's for sections. Like, that rule book that I've lived by was to get me through my childhood. That was the rules for childhood. It's a different set of rules as you grow older and go through the world. It's hard when the reality is we only live our own life. So what we believe to be true to us is true, to somebody else it might be utter nonsense. And that's something that I found really difficult to explain to people, is when somebody is sort of turning to you and you have a problem, you discuss the problem, and people will turn to you and say something like, yeah, but it doesn't have to be like that. Or, you know, it isn't like that. It's really difficult to explain that, well, the reality, the overall reality may very well be that it isn't like that. It doesn't have to be like that. Everything else like. But the matter of fact is, you have lived your life with a belief system that is the way and the only way that things happen. So when you experience something and you go through all these emotions and life and everything else, it's really tough to understand that even to yourself, things don't necessarily have to be this way. You don't have to experience it in this way. Your rules aren't hard and fast here. You can move the boundaries a bit. And the only way that I can describe that feeling of somebody trying to convince you that there is an alternate way to things is almost like trying to describe a colour to a blind man who's been blind from birth. You cannot describe the colour red to somebody who has no idea about anything visual. It's the most impossible task ever. You could try and describe it as a feeling, like red is like love or it's like anger. Well, that's two different ends of the scale anyway, so you know what I mean? And that's the kind of battle that I face, is having this set of rules, this belief system that we all have. We all have our own belief system because it's our experiences of our life. So it builds this belief system that we have. And for some people who have gone through a lot of trauma or have gone through various different things, a belief system can always be pretty negative. And I think in just shy of 12 months, the last time I saw my therapist, like a week ago almost, I think the penny finally dropped in his realization of how low I actually, I actually am. Like how dark my world has been for a very long time. He's finally started to see that the belief system I have is one where I don't believe I have any importance or value to bring to anybody. And it's really difficult when you live a life just trying to get by, but knowing you don't matter. And the poor guy, the amount of times he's trying to sit there and like validate my experiences, my emotions and everything else. And all I can do is smile at him and like, yeah, but what you don't understand is I don't matter. It doesn't matter how many people try and tell me otherwise. It's like nobody has shown me that I do. It's really difficult to explain that, the little things are what make the difference. It's things like when you're a kid growing up, and because my birthday is October, right? So I remember pretty much as far back as I can remember, my mum would be like, what would you like for your birthday? And of course, as a kid, when you're a kid, you like come up with all stupid stuff. And it's all like, if you get any of that, you won't get any Christmas presents. So there was always a caveat. There was always something that for me to have or get something, I would have to miss out somewhere else. And I know that's, an example people will just be like, yeah, about, but that is the example that is reflected across my whole upbringing. It's like the different set of rules. I remember so many times that, sharing, for example, sharing's a big one. I've been brought up to believe that if you spend your money on something for you, it is yours. I don't think that's unfair to think. But what happened as a kid was I was fed that, but then I was also made to share everything that I bought myself with my brother. My brother, on the other hand, was brought up with a completely different set of rules, with the same back belief system of if you spend your own money on something, it is yours. You don't have to share that with anybody. And lo and behold, he never had to share it with anybody. He didn't share anything with me, whereas I was told I had to share everything. So it gives you this feeling that what is yours isn't yours. You don't have anything of self. There is no you. You don't get your own stuff. You share everything. And over the years, you become very worn out with it. I won't lie, but it also becomes your reality of what is yours isn't yours. You don't have your own things. You aren't your own person. You are not your own individual. You are what anybody else wants you to be. And that really takes that feeling of you matter away, because you're basically being told that you don't matter because everybody else is more important than you. So that's kind of where we are. And like I say, yeah, I think the therapist finally like got that realization of just how deep I suppose it's like programming, I guess, goes of me not mattering. You know, enough people tell you enough times, show you enough ways, nothing you do particularly matters, who you are doesn't matter, you know, nothing about you matters. It's really hard to sit there and just, as dumb as it is, you just kind of want somebody to like you for who you are. You kind of want somebody to show you that, hey, you know what, you do matter. And for me, it's somebody to stick around in the fight long enough, I think, because that's something that I try and pride myself on for others, is that I know nobody is perfect. We'll have these moments where we're like really, really wrecked. So I will try and stick around for people to be there for them through the highs and the lows. I think it's very important. I think it's something that just doesn't happen so much in the modern world anymore. People see the first sign of a little bit of a dint or damage or red flag and they'll run for the hills. I've been brought up old school, I guess, where just because somebody's got a little bit of a hiccup, you don't run for it, you work with it. You know, you work around it, you work through it, whatever, but you get through it. So that's what I've tried to do for people for my life. The problem there is it's never been given back. So the moment that I hit a bit of a hiccup, I'm just reminded that I don't matter and people just, you know, chuck us away sort of thing. It's really sucky. It's really sucky. But, you know, a prime example of that, I guess, is I was in a really bad headspace a couple of years back when I was seeing somebody, and I was around there, and I was just, you know, I just said to him, I was like, look, I'm in a real bad headspace. I just want to go for a walk. Will you please come with me? If you come with me, I just don't want you to leave me on my own. That's all I asked. I don't think that's an unfair ask. I just literally wanted to get out of the house. I needed to go for a walk, and I didn't want to be on my own. I wanted to be with the person that you know, I was with. I wanted them just to walk with me. They didn't even have to talk or say anything. If they wanted to talk, I'm quite happy to talk. I just needed to get out, and I just needed not to be on my own. And you know what happened was, we went out, then we walked a little bit, and we got to this big park. And as soon as we got to this big park, they went. They'd gone. I don't know where they'd gone, but they'd gone. And it was just that reminder of, like, you will be there for anybody through thick and thin, whatever. But the moment that you ask somebody to do something that, I don't feel it was a big ask. I don't feel I was asking them to move the world for me. I just like, hey, just please don't leave me on my own. And they couldn't even do that. It's like, how much must you not matter to somebody if they're able just to not listen to what you've asked? Somebody that you're supposed to be really into as well, and you just sort of say, please don't leave me on their own, and then it's almost like, well, the first chance that they get, they do that. And then, of course, we eventually met up again, like a little bit more walking and whatever else, and I was just like, what happened? And just like, oh, well, you look like you wanted to be on your own. I asked you, I said, please don't leave me on my own. It's just the one thing that I specifically asked, and you know, it is what it is, and that's what you're saying about my gut, is that that situation sucked. But, you know, you can't blame other people for it. Everybody, I suppose, deals with things in their own way, and that was their way of trying to deal with my situation because maybe they couldn't deal with it. I don't know. But all it does is add to that thought, that feeling that you've had all your life, that you don't matter, and the time that somebody has a chance to prove that maybe you matter enough. Unfortunately, from my own experience, they show the other side of that coin. And that's circle back to the start of the video, the emotions thing. It can be really tough because you know you're split in this two world of emotions of why couldn't they stick around? Why? I suppose is the biggest question. And I know, like I say, as a guy, we're supposed to be tough, not care about all this stuff and fight through and everything else. But I'm just kind of getting bored of that mentality because it's something that I've noticed as well is people treat you like crap. People will treat you like crap, but because you're a man, you're supposed to just accept it and put up with it and that's fine. And it's like, you know what? Bugger off, because at the end of the day, I'm human. I do have my own thoughts, feelings, emotions. Everything. Yeah, they might be a little bit wild and they might seem a little bit extreme sometimes. I apologise for that because, you know what? I don't reckon I know how to handle them. I don't. But treating somebody like crap ain't the way to go about it. And I just wish that the world was just a little bit nicer to each other. But everybody seems to need a benefit, something to come their way. You know, you've got to be nice to somebody to get some gain. Like, bore off, man. Just be a decent human being and the world would be a much better place. It won't be. I know that's asking for, you know, probably too much and stuff. And as always, it's the individuals will try, but the majority, I don't know, it's weird. The individuals will try, but you know, get us as a group and no one cares. It's a very strange thing that I witness. Like everybody wants the world to be a better place until they have a chance to just be kind to somebody, and then it's just like effort. I do apologise for this video. I think it went off a little bit of a tangent. I hope you understand, maybe, or if you've got something to say or add, I don't know. It's tricky. I want to keep doing these videos, I do, but I found more and more days go by where I don't really have anything to say anymore. I don't really have anything to add. Work is just kind of taken up most of my hours, and so yeah, I just don't really have time to think. Don't really have time to do anything else. And then when I do something else, like sort of start seeing this girl recently or whatever else, then that takes a little bit of a sideways experience and just makes me feel that I'm just way more damaged than I thought I was. I don't know, man. I don't know. I just need a holiday from the brain. That's the hardest thing. I can take a physical holiday, I can go somewhere else, but the brain always comes with me. And it's that's problematic because it thinks too much. I don't like that. But I appreciate you guys anyway. I'm really sorry that these videos are just a middle-aged white dude having a breakdown at the minute. I don't know what I would need to happen for me to feel a little bit more on a level. You know, I've started to exercise a lot more, trying to get them endorphins flowing. Tried to get out there into the world. It's just, at the minute, it's just not working. I think it's literally because of the time of year. I've noticed it's getting darker. I get a little bit more down. It's not enjoyable, but who knows? You know, I hope you're okay anyway. I'll catch you again next time. Cheers, everybody.